Reborn 6 months before the apocalypse outbreak, I looked at the closet full of luxury items, with no intention of stockpiling supplies. Expressionlessly, I dialed a string of numbers. The next second, a message appeared on my phone. Bank of China account *0625 received a deposit of yuan 200,000,000 at 18:11 on March 14. Available balance 222 yuan, 080, 041. Before the apocalypse broke out, I was enjoying the attentive care of a top male model, living a life of pure comfort. After the apocalypse erupted, I survived safely for 2 months by relying on the food stored in the pantry. However, after those 2 months, the supplies were completely exhausted. The male model then tore off his hypocritical mask and attempted to assault me. To protect myself, I locked myself in a room. The scumbag tried multiple times to break down the door, but failed each time because the door was too sturdy. He was devoured by the zombies drawn by the loud noise, while I, with nowhere to escape, starved to death. The agony of starvation was unbearable. I took a deep breath. My stomach felt no hunger, yet my brain relentlessly screamed for food. After barely resisting the urge to binge, the butler sent a message. "Butler, miss, as per your request, we've leased the land and contacted the master. The construction team will arrive in 3 days. All materials must be of the highest quality, sturdy, with independent water and electricity systems. Even if there's a complete blackout, the castle should remain completely unaffected. Money is not an issue, revenge and such are trivial matters. The most important thing is that my sister must live, and live well. If I can't prevent the outbreak of the apocalypse, I'll have no choice but to live in survival mode." After finalizing everything, I arrived at the long-abandoned research institute in City C. In my previous life, the apocalypse first erupted in this very area of City C. But unfortunately, I paid little attention to it and have no idea what caused it. I only know it was some kind of virus, with endless speculation circulating online. Sadly, the truth remains unknown to me to this day. Money makes the mayor go. Watching the busy crowd in the research institute, I smiled with satisfaction. Since we know it's a virus, I'll just throw money at them to study everything. Those that fly in the sky, swim in the water, and run on the ground. Anything that might carry unknown viruses, catch them all and study them thoroughly. No potential foreign invader could hope to escape unscathed. It's just a bit costly. Watching the numbers on my phone rapidly dwindle, I realized I'd have to squeeze some more out of the old man. The old man was a tycoon from a certain Eastern empire. My mother died from massive hemorrhaging while giving birth to me, so my childhood was spent in the company of nannies and butlers. When I grew up, I stayed here and, in place of my mother, bid farewell to my grandparents. The old man may scold, but he truly gives money. Looking at the string of numbers on my phone, I couldn't help but sigh. Money is really great. The research at the institute isn't going smoothly, and they think I'm out of my mind, either studying chickens, ducks, and geese, or something like snails and boneless reptiles. In their eyes, it has no research value. But I'm offering way too much money. I stay silent, just throwing money at the problem relentlessly. Over time, more money. Study one more creature, more money. After my latest visit to the research institute, a certain Mediterranean clan leader rubbed his hands together and, under the collective gaze of the group, voiced the question on everyone's mind. "Boss, what exactly are we researching here?" I gave them a meaningful look, my gaze settling on the trademark analyzer. As citizens, staying vigilant about invasive species is the most fundamental aspect of our civic awareness. My voice was firm and resolute. Just focus on doing your own jobs well. Any progress? The Mediterranean man scratched his head. "No, we haven't detected any unusual viruses." I nodded. There were still 5 months before the apocalypse would break out, so it was normal that there was no progress yet. "This is the new viral vector. Study it and let me know what you need. Some things are negotiable." Under everyone's gaze, I picked up my Pinduoduo chain bag and disappeared from sight. There's no helping it. There are too many places to spend money, and after the apocalypse, these things won't even be worth as much as a steamed bun. Money needs to be spent where it counts. There are 2 months left until the apocalypse breaks out. The butler informed me that my underground castle is completed. The underground fortress spans over 300 square meters, featuring airtightness, Explosion and earthquake resistance, pollution prevention, and other functions. The bunker has 2 entrances and exits, each equipped with high-strength explosion-proof airtight doors to withstand blast wave impacts. The entrance is equipped with multiple blast-proof doors as a buffer zone, and a decontamination area is set up at the entrance to remove externally carried pollutants. The explosion-proof airtight doors can prevent harmful substances from entering. Utilizing the most advanced ventilation system to ensure fresh air is delivered to every corner while filtering out toxic gases, the interior is divided into storage areas, dining areas, equipment zones, and living quarters, with independent freezers and ambient storage rooms, as well as a hydroponic section. The castle is connected to a dual power circuit system, integrating both photovoltaic and fuel-based power generation. Cooling measures are in place to address excessive operating temperatures of power generation, along with methods to handle low temperatures. The safe house has an independent water storage tank capable of holding 20 tons of fresh water, equipped with water purification and disinfection systems, and includes an underground well for emergency needs. The space features a bedroom, study, fitness area, and entertainment facilities, all fully equipped. Adjacent to the living area is a protective supplies storage room, stocked with various essential protective gear and self-defense items not available domestically: gas masks, emergency medical supplies, fire extinguishers, and other equipment are connected to the escape route. Of course, if it comes to that point, it means the situation has reached the worst possible stage. Once the highest level central self-destruct system is activated, it will automatically initiate. And I will rest here forever. After arranging the procurement of basic living supplies, I left with a sense of satisfaction. The workers are all renowned international teams. If not for the old man's reputation, I wouldn't have been able to hire them. This bunker is equipped with a fingerprint system. No one but me can open it. 1 month since the apocalypse began, my underground fortress is fully constructed, ready for me to move in. The long silent, Invasion Resistance Task Force group chat on my phone finally received a message: blank, new discoveries in the research. The latest batch of bamboo rats shows significant genetic differences compared to previous ones. I quickly rode my electric scooter to the research institute. A group of people was gathered around the samples, talking over each other. Upon seeing me, they all crowded around. I've never seen this type of cell before. Where did these experimental bamboo rats come from? The middle-aged man in charge of the samples froze for a moment. I caught them all from the back mountain, fresh as can be. This season is precisely the breeding period for bamboo rats. My heart sank involuntarily, yet I suddenly felt a wave of relief. Since we've identified the source and still have a month left, 3 cobblers with their wits combined equal zhuge liang. As the saying goes, with over 20 people here, surely we can come up with some solution. If all else fails, their teacher must have some solution. I briefly explained a few things and hurriedly left to avoid disturbing them. However, things didn't go as smoothly as expected. I once tried to spread the news about the bamboo rats carrying an unknown virus, but it quickly sank without a trace. The Mediterranean man said, "The cellular changes in the bamboo rats are particularly noticeable by the time we research the relevant information. They will soon mutate into a new virus." A week later, they started calling in people. A group of elderly little old men and rebellious youths gathered in the cramped laboratory. As the experiments progressed, their expressions grew increasingly grim. Someone suggested reporting it to the past, but some people saw it as an opportunity to leave their mark in history. At the moment it was confirmed to be the source of infection. I made the final decision, hoping they would report it as soon as possible. However, I was quickly proven wrong. My lab was shut down on the grounds of violating laws and regulations. I asked the Mediterranean, and he could only helplessly say, "There's nothing we can do." My heart sank. There were only half a month left before the apocalypse broke out. Soon, just like in the previous life, many people began to suffer from flu with unknown origins. I looked at the latest news. #new flu strain detected in multiple regions. #influenza virus strikes. I frowned. Indeed, not everyone can be a savior. I used the excuse of your hard work during this period to send you double the salary. Those who engage in scientific research are all extremely intelligent. Tranquility leads to prosperity, boss. Thank you. I've already taken my family and rushed back to my hometown. Take care of yourself. Then, One after another, messages came in, all without exception conveying information in a veiled manner. Stay away from crowds, stock up on supplies. Out of more than 20 people, not a single one asked if I knew something in advance. I called the old man, putting on a mournful face and saying the lab had shut down, hinting vaguely that it was due to the discovery of a new virus. The old man nodded silently and said, "You stay there, I'll send someone over." I took a deep breath and reassured him, "Don't worry. You should know I've built an underground fortress. It's very safe, besides. When a kid says they need to pee, they've probably already wet their pants. It doesn't seem very safe now. What's more, the old man has 3 wives and 7 or 8 children, each with 800 schemes up their sleeves. I'm no match for them." The other end gave me a few words of advice before hanging up. My phone chimed, a string of numbers flashing before my eyes, making me dizzy. "Old man, stay safe. Me, don't worry. Sis will definitely make it to the grand finale." I told the butler about the matter. He had taken care of me for over a decade, and I hoped he could enter the bunker with me. When I was doing all this, I never intended to hide it from him. In my previous life, before the apocalypse broke out, he said a friend had invited him out for fun. Coincidentally, I was obsessed with male models at the time and couldn't tear myself away. Later, when the apocalypse erupted, it was the butler who had stockpiled food in advance that allowed me to survive for 2 months. If not for meeting the wrong people, I could have held on for even longer. The butler worked overnight to expedite the transportation of supplies to the bunker, completely filling the entire storage room. A variety of vitamins and vegetable seeds were prepared in small quantities. The butler had no children of his own, so I was like a daughter to him. There were only 7 days left before the apocalypse would erupt. We have officially moved into the bunker. All my clothes have been neatly hung in the bedroom. The castle is not far from the luxury apartment where I live, just a 40-minute drive from the city center. The people here are either wealthy or noble. My decision to build a bunker back then doesn't stand out here. 5 days remain until the apocalypse begins. Using a foreign IP address, I continuously left comments on the official accounts of major media outlets. Without exception, all went unread. The only one that was read even lectured me not to incite panic. I watched as dozens of accounts got banned, unfazed as I switched to the next one, leaving comments under various videos. As for whether anyone would actually listen, that was beyond my control. In the central control room, I glanced at the bunker's surveillance monitors. No blind spots, and quietly sighed in relief. There were only 3 days left until the apocalypse. Some people online are already saying that the first batch of flu patients has been admitted to the intensive care unit, but soon, this comment was deleted. There are only 2 days left until the apocalypse. I was frantically switching between various apps, not missing any discussion about the apocalypse. The long silent phone rang. Unknown number. I hung up immediately. Who still bothers with sales calls at a time like this? The caller persisted. I sighed. "Hello, may I speak to MS. Goo?" I casually stuffed a potato chip into my mouth and answered indistinctly. "Who is this? We're from XXX and would like to inquire about matters related to XX Research Institute with you. According to our investigation, MS. Goo invested a considerable amount of money into this research half a year ago. Forgive my bluntness, MS. Goo Jean, but there are some matters we'd like to discuss with you in person." Boom. My mind went completely blank in an instant. Damn it, who the hell backstabbed me? I remained silent for a moment, my voice slightly hoarse. "I'll tell you, but you need to tell me who that person is." I kept pondering in my heart, among those 20-some people, who could be such an ingrate? Now that I'm already in the bunker, what does it matter if they know? In just 2 more days, social order and civilization will cease to exist. Taking a deep breath, I said, "I'll only tell the leader with the most authority." The other end fell silent. After a long pause, he said, "Hold on a moment." The voice came through the receiver again, this time sounding somewhat elderly. I confessed everything I knew, and by the end, there was a hint of mockery in my tone. I thought I could prevent the apocalypse, but unfortunately, a low sigh sounded. "We were too overconfident, Comrade Goo. We truly appreciate your trust. It's us who failed to live up to your passionate dedication." I sighed. "Everything in the lab has been sealed away. I hope it proves somewhat helpful to you." 2 days later, the hospital was where the initial riots broke out. I'm just someone with a bit more memory than you all, and I don't even have the courage to go out and fight zombies." After a pause, I continued, "After the apocalypse broke out, the weather became somewhat abnormal. With temperatures dropping earlier than in previous years. In my previous life, before I died, I was already wearing a down jacket. At the very last second before hanging up the phone, the other end mentioned a name. A face flashed through my mind. That person, tall and slender, who had said back when we were deciding to report it, 'This is an opportunity. One can only say the human heart is hard to fathom, miss. The meal is ready.' The butler's voice sounded from behind. Coming. Uncle Lou, just call me by my name, no need to address me as Miss or anything." Uncle Lou wore a simple, honest smile and nodded, saying, "Yes, Miss." I sighed, knowing it would be hard for him to change the habit right away. The meal was very simple: scrambled eggs with tomatoes, shredded pork with green peppers, and rice, accompanied by a vegetable soup. After a simple meal, the long quiet group chat suddenly popped up with a new message. Blank. "Did you all get the call? Xiao Zhao." "Yeah. I'm already here drinking tea. Stock up now. The truth can't be hidden anymore. You, that Li Sun guy. I always said he was cunning, but none of you believed me. Is the boss safe now?" Responses gradually appeared in the group chat. After hesitating for a moment, I replied, "Stay away from crowds, stock up, and don't be a bleeding heart. I'm safe. Take care of yourselves." By the afternoon, the internet suddenly exploded with activity. Defense drill: food prices are absurdly low. Many people flooded into supermarkets, with the upper class stepping in, creating scenes of low-priced goods being sold in every city. Many people are showing off the supplies they've bought online. The vast majority of people followed the crowd and stockpiled a lot of food. Then the government issued a notice about the work from home and school closure drill. Some were worried while others were delighted. And all major platforms were in an uproar. Is something about to happen? I'm a bit panicked too. I worked late and only had time to grab one bag of rice. +1, I watched the online updates. This time, with measures taken in advance, perhaps we can truly avoid the outcome of the previous life. 24 hours until the apocalypse countdown. The next day, I habitually turned on my phone as usual. Some schools were still quietly holding classes, and some companies insisted on employees coming to the office. Many low-income workers lamented, "If we don't work, how can we survive?" Only a handful of people heeded the advice to stay home. I can't remember how many times I sighed when Uncle Lou looked at me with concern and asked, "Will the apocalypse really come?" I raised my head and hesitated before shaking it. "I don't know. I've done all I can, but the outcome remains unknown." By noon, the internet was still calm and quiet. Many young people said it was just a tactic to get people to spend money. Many elderly people take their children out of the house, as kids naturally prefer not to stay quietly at home. I silently scrolled through videos, but soon, there were constant reports of areas being quarantined. Then, a video notification pops up on my phone. The setting is a hospital. Bloodstains litter the ground as the crowd flees in panic. Then, soldiers wielding riot shields step forward to try to stop them, but people keep rushing out from the stairwells. Accompanied by desperate cries for help, hospitals are naturally crowded, and many severely injured patients confined to their beds become the first targets of the infected. Then more and more people became infected, and medical staff tried to close the doors, only to be knocked down by the pursuing infected. Holy shit, what is this? Why does this thing look so much like a zombie? Thanks to the government subsidy, my wife bought a lot of stuff yesterday. More and more videos are being posted online. At this point, the nation no longer remains silent. An emergency meeting was convened. We urge the public to stay at home for quarantine. Vaccines are currently under development. Please trust the nation. We will not abandon anyone. I handed the phone to Uncle Lou. "Uncle Lou, we must be extra careful from now on. Our place is safe." But I looked at Uncle Lou solemnly and said, "We absolutely cannot let anyone in." Uncle Lou nodded silently, perhaps unable to stomach the bloody scene, then turned and went into the storage room to organize supplies. I called the old man, who was still in good spirits. Thinking about it, that made sense. He can get any weapon there, but I'm not lacking here either, unless the people inside voluntarily come out. Those outside can forget about getting in. The surveillance shows many people coming to this villa area with their families in tow, with its sparse population and distance from the city center. This is indeed a great location. Online, those who had been bitten to death stood up again, their limbs twisted in an eerie posture, their heads hung loosely as their stiff bodies moved toward the living around them. Screams filled the air. Many elderly people naturally walk slowly, while young children are both startled and terrified, forced to watch helplessly as zombies pounce on those around them. Someone was crying. My mother-in-law went out with the child and still hasn't come back. Has anyone seen them? Can someone take them in? In just a short while, many places had already descended into a living hell. The TV continuously broadcasts news updates. Police, firefighters, armed police, and military units quickly mobilized, while the government advised people to secure their doors and stay at home in isolation. Someone was filming a video from their balcony. In the video, sporadic gunshots could be heard, accompanied by the reassuring voices of police officers. We live in a safe country, unlike abroad where people carry guns, and armed police are few and far between. Such sporadic firepower is far from enough to control the current situation. The videos circulating online are even more horrifying. The cries and pleas of people are accompanied by eerie, low growls. All over the world, the virus collectively erupted on this day. Some foreign websites claimed that similar infections had appeared in different regions a week earlier. Some say this is nature's punishment for humanity. It is nature's way of cleansing humanity. 3 days have passed since the apocalypse began. Now the streets are filled with zombies with broken limbs wandering everywhere. We haven't seen any zombies here yet. By the afternoon, several cars arrived one after another, and I saw people unloading supplies from them. Uncle Lou kept sighing from time to time beside us. I absent-mindedly took a sip of cola while the surveillance screen displayed footage of the city streets. I sighed in admiration, as expected of a top-tier hacker. This money was well spent. Half a month after the apocalypse broke out, the internet began to become intermittent. The weather has gotten quite cold recently, and I checked the room temperature. It's 26 degrees. My phone shows the temperature is 1 to 6 degrees. It's not even October yet, but the temperature is already close to dropping below zero. Online, many people are sending out distress messages. I'll pay $8,000 for one XL down jacket. I'll trade 2 bottles of water, 1 pack of instant noodles, and 2 packs of spicy strips for 1 thick cotton coat. Another netizen said, "It's snowing here, and the zombies are moving much slower than usual. If you need supplies, you'd better act quickly. If the weather gets even colder in a few days, you might freeze to death at home even if you're not eaten by zombies." As rescue efforts continue to be delayed, angry remarks online are increasing, with countless people venting their frustrations through furious rants on the internet. 2 more days passed, and snowflakes began to drift from the sky. I stared blankly at the snowflakes scattering on the surveillance screen. In my previous life, it seemed there had been no snow. As the snow fell, the 2 families across from me opened their doors one after another, exchanged glances, and wordlessly headed toward their cars with unspoken understanding. It appeared they were going to search for supplies. It made sense. After more than half a month into the apocalypse, even if they had brought food with them, it was probably running low by now. Apart from the family that arrived last, several cars have been coming and going today. It seems they've also seen the comments. The weather is freezing, and the zombies' mobility has significantly decreased. This situation has increased humans' chances of survival. Xiao Gu, take a break. Uncle Lou brought over a cup of coffee. You've been staring at it all day. Let me take over for a while. You should rest. I shook my head. The internet connection was getting worse and worse, so staring at the surveillance footage had become a way to pass the time. It wasn't until 8 p.m. that the last car returned to the villa area. Early the next morning, Uncle Lou looked at me with some urgency. There are man-eating monsters outside. I quickly went to check, scrolling through the surveillance records. They must have followed those people back yesterday. I waved my hand. Don't worry, they can't pose a threat to us. Life in the bunker was safe but dull. Fortunately, Uncle Lou had someone download plenty of movies, TV shows, and variety programs beforehand. Uncle Lou rarely let himself stay idle. when he wasn't organizing supplies. He was researching how to grow vegetables. Tonight's dinner was braised beef with tomatoes, accompanied by some fresh fruits, all of which were long-lasting varieties. After finishing my meal, I routinely went to the monitoring room to check the surrounding environment, ensuring no corner was overlooked. Before finally relaxing on the sofa to watch a variety show, it had been 2 months since the apocalypse began. In my previous life, I died around this time, but now, I could feel the softness of the sofa beneath me and the warmth in my stomach. Over the following period, snow fell intermittently, and the internet was completely cut off, leaving me with no choice but to observe the surroundings of the villa. The warm indoor environment combined with having just eaten a full meal made me drowsy, and I drifted off to sleep. When I woke up again, the sound of a puppy whimpering reached my ears. And I instantly bolted upright from the sofa. Where did this dog come from? Uncle Lou looked at me with a panicked expression. It was whining outside, shivering from the cold, so I brought it in. My mind went blank with a sudden buzz. Are you hurt? Uncle Lou waved his hand, indicating no. After a pause, he added, no one noticed me. I checked the surroundings and only went out to bring it back when there was no one around. I've checked, and it's not injured. I threw myself heavily onto the sofa, burying my face in the blanket, suppressing the furious words in my mouth. Taking a deep breath, I looked at Uncle Lou standing there at a loss and said seriously, Uncle Lou, from now on, we absolutely cannot go outside. No matter what happens, we must not go out. Uncle Lou opened his mouth. I just thought you were bored, so I brought it back. Don't worry. I definitely won't go out again in the future. The two of us are as weak as a kitten. If you invite trouble, Uncle Lou, just the two of us wouldn't stand a chance against even a single punch from someone else. Uncle Lou felt very guilty. That evening, he prepared a table full of dishes, wearing an ingratiating smile on his face. I looked at the little dog whimpering at my feet. What's done is done, and there's no use saying anything more. The puppy got a name, Lucky Treasure. After dinner, I double-checked the bunker's door to make sure it was secure before finally settling down to sleep. I nervously observed for a few days, but the surroundings remained eerily quiet. The weather grew increasingly colder. In my previous life, I didn't even survive until this time, so I had no idea what would happen next. Now, the snow outside is already waist-high, and the lower surveillance cameras are completely buried under a blanket of white. The temperature inside the underground bunker has also dropped to around 10 degrees Celsius, while outside it's as low as -45 degrees Celsius, with overcast skies for several consecutive days. I curled up on the sofa, too lazy to move a muscle. Taking a sip of instant coffee, I glanced down at the small lump curled at my feet. I couldn't stand how carefree it looked, so I gently kicked the blanket beneath it with my foot. The puppy, clearly unaware of human emotions, thought I was playing with it. I casually glanced at the surveillance footage, and what I saw sent chills down my spine. The man across the way, clad in full protective gear, was holding an axe as he advanced toward the opposite door. Whether the people inside didn't hear him or simply trusted the sturdiness of their door, there was no reaction at all. After about 10 minutes, the man ran back home clutching his stomach. And the door opposite was quietly closed again. I scooped the little dog into my arms, drawing a bit of warmth from it. Before long, 2 figures, one tall and one short, emerged from the house across the way and headed toward the heavily guarded man's home. Soon after, they were seen dragging him back inside. The ground was left with pale scratch marks, but they were quickly buried under the falling snow. We welcomed the first new year after the apocalypse amid a raging blizzard. I've been staying up late binge-watching shows these past few days, with dark circles under my eyes. Uncle Lou has recently become obsessed with single-player games, having a blast playing them, and by the time I woke up, it was almost noon. Uncle Lou took some frozen meat from the freezer and some vegetables. With his repeated corrections on my technique, I made the most perfect dumplings of my life. While waiting for the dumplings, Uncle Lou went into the hydroponic area and brought out a bunch of greens and some fresh cucumbers, making my mouth water. In total, there were 10 dishes prepared. Uncle Lou said, for the new year, everything should come in pairs. Dishes with fish, symbolizing abundance year after year. The tablet was playing the Spring Festival Gala, something I wouldn't have even glanced at before. Days passed unhurriedly like this. The surveillance cameras no longer showed any trace of zombies. in fact. I hadn't seen another living soul either. I woke up from the heat, my fleece pajamas soaked with sweat, as a loud knocking echoed from the door. "Miss, the sun is out." I hurried into the monitoring room. After months of absence, sunlight once again hung in the sky, and the surrounding snow slowly melted. The indoor temperature was as high as 28 degrees, while the outdoor temperature reached 33 degrees. In the following days, the temperature remained consistently around 37 degrees, as the temperature rose. The zombies hidden beneath the ice reappeared. The flash-frozen zombies showed no difference from before. Their movements had initially seemed stiff, but as the temperature increased, their bodies began to decay. In the autumn of the first year of the apocalypse, an off-road vehicle came to a stop outside the villa with a honk, followed by another car. The leading man cleared out the wandering zombies nearby, circled the area once more, then swept through the surrounding villas. His gaze finally settling on my building. Unfortunately for them, my door was sturdy. After several attempts, the group left in frustration. I couldn't help but sigh in relief. But soon, they returned. I practically lived in the surveillance room, and Uncle Lou urged me to take a break. But I shook my head. After half a month of back and forth, my front door was finally pried open. Unfortunately, apart from some simple furniture, there was nothing upstairs, since no one had disturbed the place. A thick layer of dust had settled on the floor. I watched as they, furious, smashed the furniture to pieces. Meanwhile, zombies that had been wandering around from who knows where began to gather nearby, only to be tied to ropes and flown like kites by the group. They left, and after some time, a man and a woman came by. They looked around and then left. Another half a month passed, and then 2 men, a woman, and a child arrived. They looked panicked, frequently glancing behind them. Uncle Lou pulled up a chair and stared unblinkingly at the surveillance monitor. Before long, I saw more than 20 zombies come into view. I couldn't help but feel nervous for the people outside. They looked around and then headed toward my building. Indeed, my building did appear sturdier, but there was no telling whether these zombies could climb upstairs. If not, they might just escape this disaster. I watched as they blocked the main entrance with furniture and ran upstairs. Fortunately, the zombies couldn't climb stairs, so they lost their target and continued to wander around the villa's perimeter. The slightly older man surveyed the surroundings. Over the next few days, he and another younger man managed to eliminate over a dozen zombies, leaving only a few in the vicinity. They seemed to have settled here. The man often went out to scavenge for usable items and even planted some vegetables in the nearby soil. We coexisted peacefully for 2 months. And the vegetable patch began to sprout lush green seedlings. I had grown accustomed to observing the family of 4 upstairs, learning about them through their conversations. The greens in the field were quickly harvested by them, and the woman spread the vegetables on the ground to dry them into preserved greens. The little girl beside her was very quiet, appearing to be about 5 or 6 years old, and would tightly cover her mouth when she saw zombies. I thought life would continue peacefully like this, but that day, the man returned home in a disheveled state. The woman quickly gathered her belongings and prepared to leave, but the person behind her arrived even faster. I turned my gaze to the car in the rear. The car looked familiar. It was the same one that had come before, but the people inside were no longer the same group as last time. A man's mocking voice rang out. "Let's see where you think you can hide. Killed 2 of my brothers and still think you can run. If you know what's good for you, let that woman entertain us. If we're happy, maybe we'll spare your life." In the room, I saw the woman clutching the girl tightly, while the young man beside her gripped a knife, glaring fiercely at the door. Uncle Lou opened his mouth, glanced at me, then lowered his head again. I pretended not to notice. In this apocalyptic world, those who survive are no ordinary people. Who knows if they're just putting on an act? Even if it's real, I can't save them. Uncle Lou let out a heavy sigh and walked out. The 2 sides stood in a stalemate for a while before the group opposite began advancing toward the house with weapons in hand. The man, outnumbered and overpowered, was eventually subdued by the crowd. Even in his final moments, he clung tightly to the other man's leg, making one last desperate stand. I couldn't bear to watch any longer. The ground suddenly began to tremble, and the water in the cup on the table rippled. Uncle Lou rushed in, his face filled with panic. "Miss, it's an earthquake." the tremors grew stronger, and Fu Bao at my feet paced restlessly, letting out low growls. I steadied myself. Even if it was an earthquake, there was nowhere to hide now. People were above, death awaited outside, and staying here meant death too. Uncle Lu pointed at the surveillance screen, his mouth agape. Zombies. I looked up and saw dense clusters of small black dots appearing within the surveillance range not far away. The people outside no longer cared about those inside, hastily getting into their vehicles to flee. The young boy dragged the blood-covered man upstairs with great effort. Uncle Lu looked at me. "Miss, let's let them in. They'll die." I gazed indifferently at the group. If we let them in, their fate might become ours in the next second. As the zombies drew closer, Uncle Lu made a move toward the stairs. I stared fixedly at Uncle Lu and said somewhat coldly, "Uncle Lu, we can't let them in." "Uncle Lu, miss, those are 4 lives at stake. If you won't save them, I'll do it myself." With that, he headed upstairs. I'm just an old bag of bones. I've lived long enough. I watched as Uncle Lu struggled to drag several people to the entrance, then turned to look at the approaching horde of corpses behind us, frantically pounding on the basement door. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Unable to turn it, I looked down at Fu Bao whimpering at my feet and ultimately couldn't bring myself to do it. I couldn't just stand by and watch a nearly 60-year-old man die in front of me. If I really ended up saving ungrateful snakes, I could always trigger the self-destruct. Then no one would get out alive. The moment the door opened, the man at the front immediately squeezed in. After everyone had entered, I quickly closed the door. Turning around, I saw the 4 of them standing quietly by the sofa, the young girl curiously looking around with her mouth wide open. 3 days later, the zombie horde retreated. The surveillance system was almost completely destroyed, with only a few cameras left in the corners. The villa above had already been flattened. During this time, the only thing we can do is stay quiet. Even though it's unlikely the zombies can hear us, if you want to stay, you'll have to listen to me. The group glanced up at me, and I didn't find this request the slightest bit unreasonable. Of course, if you can't accept it, you're free to leave now. You can take enough food to last you a week. The man lowered his head, while the woman hesitated, glancing at the man clutching his abdomen. After a long silence, I heard the man say, "We're willing to comply with any of your demands." I smiled. "Uncle Lu, make the arrangements." As for the injury, fortunately, it wasn't too severe. Uncle Lu fetched some medicine and bandaged it for him. As for the internal injuries, he would just have to endure them on his own. The woman took over Uncle Lu's cooking duties, while Uncle Lu began researching how to cultivate the next batch of vegetables. We coexisted peacefully like this without any incidents. The little girl wasn't shy at all. She would often cling to my legs sweetly calling me sister, or she'd be sprawled on the floor playing with Fu Bao. A month later, the man had mostly recovered, the little girl was very well behaved, and Uncle Lu said he would make her a wooden rocking horse, with the man assisting him by his side. The woman naturally took on daily tasks like cooking, and the little girl didn't need to be fed. She obediently sat in her chair every mealtime. Uncle Lu sighed several times. "Thank goodness we saved you back then. Otherwise this old bones of mine would have died of boredom." I opened a bottle of soda with a blank expression. They can only fool Uncle Lu. That young boy has tried several times to hack into the underground fortress's highest permissions through the computer. Even that woman is no pushover, fortunately. We still have plenty of food, enough to sustain us underground for at least 3 years. Time passed bit by bit, and before we knew it, winter had arrived. Since they realized they couldn't destroy the system, the 4 of them gradually became more resigned to their situation. Uncle Lu was very happy. The little girl often pestered him to tell stories, and there were plenty of facilities in the entertainment area. The group frequently spent time there, watching the same movies over and over again without getting tired of them. In the blink of an eye, it was New Year's Eve. Uncle Lu, unusually, opened a bottle of wine. He seemed very happy, but as I had drunk cola at noon, I didn't have much of an appetite at the moment. Ever since outsiders entered the castle, I had remained vigilant. After half a year of interaction, I finally let my guard down around them. Fu Bao had grown quite a bit. It was very well behaved and never barked. Perhaps because no one had taught it how, every time I see Fu Bao, the gloom in my heart dissipates a little. At night, I heard a faint noise outside the door. Fu Bao immediately became alert. lowering his body into an attacking stance. I pulled out the pistol from under my pillow, signaled Fu Bao to stay quiet with a gesture, and rolled toward a blind spot in the field of vision. The door creaked, and I vaguely saw a figure raising a gleaming blade, stabbing toward the bed. Behind me followed a rather slender figure. Bang, bang. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. One shot hit its mark, but the other went wide as the slender figure dodged to the side. I instantly turned on the bedside lamp, its harsh light making me squint. I pulled the trigger again. Beyond 10 meters, a gun is fast. Within 10 meters, it's both fast and accurate. Take advantage of his weakness to take her life. I aimed the gun at them, while a woman's slightly trembling voice came from the doorway. Put down the gun, or I'll kill him. The woman tightly gripped Uncle Lu's neck, and I lowered my eyes, but the gun in my hand remained raised. Uncle Lu's voice choked with emotion. Miss, don't worry about me. The woman pressed the dagger slightly harder, and bright red blood trickled down the neck. I coldly glanced at the two people lying on the ground, the corner of my lips curling slightly. Put down the gun. Fine, you get out. The woman looked at the two figures curled up on the ground and nodded. Husband, baby, get up quickly. The two of them, trembling and unsteady, supported each other as they walked toward the gate. Uncle Lu's eyes welled up with tears, and he opened his mouth as if to say something, but the woman pressed the dagger down harder. I followed closely behind the group, the little girl staring at me without blinking. Fu Bao let out a low, warning growl at her. Uncle Lu shakily pulled open the door. Outside, the scene was chaotic. Bloodstains smeared the walls, and the zombies had forcefully carved out a path through the entrance. Let Uncle Lu go. You can leave. Go to hell. I watched as the young man charged toward me, and Uncle Lu suddenly broke free, running in my direction. After the gunshot, I looked at the three people lying on the ground and Uncle Lu, who was barely alive. A knife was lodged in his back, and the look he gave me was filled with guilt. Miss, it's all my fault. From now on, you'll have to live alone. Thank goodness, at least there's Fu Bao. Uncle Lu. I stared blankly at Uncle Lu lying on the ground. Hurry back home now, and don't open the door for anyone from now on. I know I was wrong. I almost got you involved. You should go back now. Miss, please go back. Not far away. The growls of zombies echoed, while the little girl stood frozen in place. I glanced at Uncle Lu, who had already stopped breathing, and slowly closed the door. In my ears was the woman's faint plea, please, save my daughter. I was puzzled and asked her, why are you doing this? There's plenty of food in the castle, and it's safe. The woman suddenly laughed. Why should we live worse than dogs in this apocalypse while you still get to stay high and mighty? I've never mistreated any of you. So what? You never mentioned you had a gun. The woman glared at me resentfully. I toyed with the delicate, compact pistol in my hand, a coming-of-age gift from the old man. Since the apocalypse, I've never let it leave my side. Not even Uncle Lu knew about it. Perhaps, as the ancients often said, going too far is as bad as not going far enough. Watching the snowflakes drift endlessly from the sky, I murmured softly, what a pity. Then I turned and walked away. Please. Tian is innocent. Please save her. I paused in my steps and looked at Tian standing there, bewildered. She seemed unaware of what she was about to face. Unfortunately, one cannot stumble over the same place twice. The moment the door closed, the woman's sobbing voice turned shrill, followed by a torrent of vile curses and the man's desperate, agonized pleas. Pity. The soft-hearted one was killed by them. This time, no one will save them again. I watched as the zombies slowly devoured them. Saw the little girl who always kept her eyes wide open gradually lose her life. Fu Bao circled around my feet, occasionally glancing outside as if wondering where the old man who always cleaned up after him had gone. I patted its head, and even though it wouldn't understand, I crouched down and earnestly told it, Fu Bao, Uncle Lu has gone to a very far-away place and won't be coming back. From now on, it's just the two of us. It nestled obediently in my arms. I watched as the snowflakes covered everything and inspected the castle once more. Fu Bao followed me closely, never leaving my side. I only have this left. Uncle Lu's radio, which he usually loved to fiddle with, always emitted occasional static noises. I remember him saying, with this, we can receive news from the outside world, but every time there's only that crackling sound. I watched quietly, never touching it, until one day, a clear and audible voice came from within, "Dear survivors. After 3.5 years of relentless effort, we have finally developed a vaccine for the zombie virus, as we had hoped. Starting today, we will conduct a large-scale zombie cleanup operation within the next week. All survivors must evacuate the bombing zones immediately. Survivors in need of assistance, please make markings in a location visible to helicopters." Fortunately, the area I was in was not within the bombing zone. Half a month later, as the radio broadcast repeated its message time and again, people were finally able to step back into the sunlight, watching the helicopter hovering in the sky. I knew we had finally won. The end.